So good morning. My name is Michael. I'm one of the leaders here at Third Church, and I'm just gracious that I get to share this sermon with you all this morning. Now, please join me in the reading of the word, please. It'll be on the screen. Don't let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you with me, and there you'll also be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we don't know where you're going, so how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way, I am the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, do you know him and have seen him? You do know him and have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. Jesus answered, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you for such a long time, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The word I say to you, I do not speak of my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least to believe on the evidence of the works themselves. Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will even do greater things than these, because I am going to be with the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything, and I'll do it in my name, and I will do it. Join me in prayer. God, just thank you that we just get to join in this moment, that we get to learn who you are. Because I am statements, we know that King, your King is good over us. And we know that throughout any troubles we might face, any uncertainty in the future, that we can rely on you. That you are Lord of everything. Thank you. Bless the Lord, pray. Amen. You can have your seats. Awesome. As you're sitting down, tell your neighbor, we've got to talk. Yeah. We've got to talk. We've got to talk are three words I absolutely do not like to hear. When it's coming from anybody in the world. When anyone begins a conversation with, we've got to talk, your mind automatically starts racing. You're hanging on every word they say next. When we've got to talk comes from a friend, you start thinking, uh-oh, what is it now? My first inclination is about money, like, did I loan you money, or am I not getting my money back, or do I owe you money? But most times it's about like, sorry, I can't make it to your event. You're going to have to go alone. And you feel bummed out because you would really hope they would be there with you. Or maybe it's because you really value their presence and their presence wouldn't be felt there. When we've got to talk comes from a spouse or someone you're dating, this one grips your heart like no other one. You start thinking, are they thinking of leaving me? Has my standing with them changed any bit? You start thinking, what did I do this time? Like, dang, I shouldn't have said that thing I know I shouldn't have said, but I kind of get away with it all the time. The thing about me is I like to talk a lot, and so my mouth writes checks future me has to cash in. And most of the time, there's not enough money in the bank to get that money. When we've got to talk comes from a parent, this is the worst one of them all. Because when I was younger, which is pretty much pre-college, not too long ago, when I was younger, whenever my mom called me into her room, usually when she called me, she would like say it right away, like, oh, can you get me some water? Don't forget to take out the trash. When they call you, they sit down, they pause the TV and look at you for 2 seconds. In those 2 seconds, my mind is working at 10x speed, thinking of every possible thing I have done in the past month. Like, what could she be calling me in here for? But when we've got to talk, it comes from a teacher, a coach, or a boss. It might be about your performance. You're not doing so well. They sit you down to say, sorry, we're going to have to let you go. It kills your confidence because you're hanging on to every word they're going to say afterwards. Before the it is talk about, your mind begins to race. In high school, I ran track for 4 years. The girls in our team were amazing. The boys, not so much. We got better over time, but it was the one sport I did because, well, you can't really cut anybody from the track team. You're sort of on the track team. And I progressively got better over time, and the entire team got better over time. And in my junior year, we got this one great coach. He was a very reputable coach. He'd coached many of the girls in summer track. We were excited that we got somebody who can, like, teach us how to be better sprinters and jumpers. And throughout the year, we progressed well going into indoor track. We all hit our PRs. Going into outdoor track, it was great. We were all performing very, very well, and we were excited about the next year to come. Till eventually he called all the team captains aside and had the "We've got to talk." We had to talk about him. He got a new offer for a new job, and he had to leave. And immediately, a lot of concerns were over our hearts. We're thinking, dang, like, it's going to be 4 years in high school and have 3 different coaches. That's a lot of instability. Like, I'm going to have to get in the graces of a new coach, learn their system. Are they going to see me as the sprinter or as the jumper that I think that I am? It's just a moment filled with a lot of doubt and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of worry. And this is the feeling the disciples felt going into John chapter 14. Now, to provide some context behind this, this section of the Bible is known as the farewell disclosures. Jesus, when he essentially saying goodbye to his friends. And it actually continues a conversation happening in chapter 13. But let's go back to John 12. In John 12, Jesus had just arrived at Jerusalem for the festival of Passover. And many of the crowds want to come see him. And so the disciples want to go sent for him. And Philip and Andrew went to send for Jesus and to inform them they wanted to see him. Here's what Jesus said in John 12, 23-24. Jesus replied, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds." Probably not the reaction they were expecting from him, like, what? What are you saying? You see, Jesus has been preparing for this "we've got to talk" conversation with them for many times, dropping hints, almost like dropping hints that a breakup is about to come, like, hey, I don't feel like going to dinner with you tonight, or, oh, your anniversary's coming up, but they don't seem as interested in it. Like, wait a second, what's happening, G? So the disciples are on edge even going into this. So Jesus goes out, he speaks with the crowd, then he calls the disciples in privately where they share a meal and worship. And in that speech, he predicts Jesus' betrayal, predicts that Peter's going to deny him 3 times, which is saying a lot because Peter's one of those people who does before they think. They tend to be the most loyal ones. So if someone like Peter denies you 3 times, that's saying like, dang, like, are you all just going to leave me? So there's this tension filled in the room. Jesus is saying he's going to leave us. Like, what are you talking about? And he's saying we're all going to like betray you and go against you. So they have this sense of dread in the room. And that's what we're going into in chapter 14. The first part from verse 1 to 3 reads, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If it were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? If I go there and prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, so you may also be where I am. You know the place I am going and where I am going." Immediately in the first verse, Jesus is saying, calm down. "Let your hearts not be troubled" is translation for stop feeling so anxious. Stop being so worried about the future. Here is a man getting ready to be put to his death, and he's telling them, stop worrying. Like, how many of us live in such a constant fear of worry that we're always on to the next one, whether it's about you have enough to provide, whether you yourself are enough, or whether you're worried about what's happening in the world. I see this especially in how my parents parent me and my siblings. Now, we're all very different, and my unique quirk is I have the tendency of just being like a go, 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 go person. They constantly have to tell me to slow down, like stop worrying about it. If I can't see 14 moves ahead in the future, then like I get anxious, like where am I going and what's about to happen? In college, this always came up as whenever I didn't do so well in an exam. This train of thought would come up like, dang, I guess I'm not built for this. This is not meant for me, which leads into, well, I guess I got to change my major now. But I'm a junior. That means I got to restart. That means my life starts later at 28, all from one test. Now imagine all of the other things that goes on in college. Every week is a midlife crisis. And you're never in a state of just like rest. And that's what Jesus is saying here. He's saying, let your hearts not be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If they were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? Now, I'll first read, prepare a place for me. It makes it seem like Jesus is this rich man who's inviting you to his mansion. I have all this room, no shortage of space, abundant supply, and I lack nothing. And all you have to do is trust in him. The room is being prepared for you. Now, these first three verses are commonly read at funerals. It's a way of saying when the dad passed from this world, it's not the end for them, but they've been given the gift of eternal life in heaven. And the emphasis of a large home being prepared for someone comes from the idea that the church is the bride of Christ. Before a husband weds his wife, he had to prepare a home to welcome his bride into. A father wanted to let his daughter go, not knowing she's going into a very stable and very safe hands. And John, the author of this chapter, alludes to this again in his writing of Revelations. In Revelations 21, 2-4. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people. He will dwell with them, they will be his people, and God himself will be there with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, or mourning, or crying, or pain, for the old order of things have passed away. It speaks to the hope of the resurrection that will happen again. That your hurt, your worries, your lost are not lost upon God. He knows them, and he's very much aware of them. What we call heaven, Jesus calls being with him and his Father. That when you feel like you're the furthest away from him and that he's not right there, he truly is there. He is a living God who has had so much and prepared so much for you. The King of all kings has a room for you in his house, and he's just waiting for you and thinking of you. Now, Jesus says that, and let's see how Thomas responds in verse 5-7. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Some version of the Bible it reads as, if you knew me, you would know. If you knew me, you would know where I'm going. That sounds crazy to me because these are his closest friends. These are the people who know him the best. Like, if there's anybody you got to pick who knows Jesus the best, they're his disciples. They're his closest friends. Like, if you really knew me, you would know I like pineapple on my pizza. I know we're like that, but I suppose some people don't like that. I don't get that one. If you really knew me, you would know where I live, and you would need to ask me for my address all the time. If you really knew me, you would know the words not to say because you knew they were hurtful. If you really knew me like that, you wouldn't even need to put my address in your GPS. You would just know where to go because you've done there about too many times. One of my friends, Francis, he recently moved to his place, and a new place in Arlington, and I had never been there before. I had never seen that area before. So when I first got there, the area wasn't so familiar. I'm like, where do I go? Like this. I had never been to that part of town, but I go there so much now, so often. At this point, I look at my watch like, oh, it's this time of day, so take this road to get there, to get that. So it's like I'm always there, always there, always there, because I walk down that road, and I know where to go. But how would I have found him initially if he didn't give me guidance, if he didn't tell me where to go? When Thomas asks, how would we know the way? The GPS to God is standing before them in the flesh, in Jesus. But this is not a journey from destination A to B. This is a journey through life, providing direction, guidance, and wisdom through the darkness and the light. When he answered, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He is not only saying he is the way, he is the very key to enter. But let's take notice of how he describes it. He is the way. He is the truth. He is the life. There aren't many ways. There aren't many truths. There aren't many lies to reach Jesus. He is the way. It helps to put into perspective that you can't be completely moral. You can't hold the kindness of views, have the right pro or anti, right things. That won't help you reach God. You don't earn your way to him. It's through Jesus. It's not something that we do on our own. The way to God is not a plan. It's not a 10-step process or an application. You don't earn it from your good works or your moral views. It's in the person who is in unity with the Father, and that's Jesus. Now, with all that being said, what does it mean to reach God? Like, how do I reach God? It's through Jesus. It means knowing him, spending time with him, conversating with him. This can mean spending time in the Word, or you come to God with all situations, large and small. You know you're a true friend when I can come to you for the large things and the silly things. Like one of my friends, I called them about just the dumbest of all things. It does not matter at all. But you know they value and cherish your presence in that relationship. And you built that over time, no matter how ridiculous what the conversation is about. Reaching God looks like a friendship, a relationship, not a status that lives in your life for 24 hours and gone in the next. Many of us walk around with what I call a situationship with Christ, like, yeah, I know him, but I really don't know him like that. Or some of us fall on our laurels, say, well, God's got me, and use that as an excuse for, since God's got me, I'll be forgiven of all my sins. I ain't got to worry about nothing. But do you really know him? Are you seeking him constantly? Have you built a bond to last for a lifetime? In verse 7, Jesus tells them how to know the Father, and immediately reaffirms them that they have seen the Father. It says, if you really knew me, you would know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Now let's hear how Philip responds to that in verse 8. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and we will be enough. That will be enough for us. Immediately, Philip is asking to see the Father like he's not seen the source. Almost like Jesus isn't the real deal. Let's see what Jesus says back in verse 9. Don't you know me, Philip? Even after I've been among you for such a long time, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? I almost sense a form of hurt from Jesus there. Like, come on, bro. Like, how many times I got to say this? Like, I am Father in you. Philip's naivete is to demand a direct vision of God over the revelation of God himself, which is Jesus. Jesus answers him and redirects his attention to the direct vision of God, which is him. Continuing in verse 10, it says, don't you believe that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak of my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves. The phrase, don't you know me? Haven't I been with you? Is to say, it's a word of revelation of God. There's always, is to say, if I've been with you this entire time, then, and you don't believe that I am the Father, then as my ministry just meant nothing. As all the things that I've done, just smoke shows, signs and mirrors. He even proclaims his deity in that line. He says, believe me when I say, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. Or believe on the works of themselves. He says, he proclaims his deity, that he is God in the flesh. When he healed the sick, he is seeing the Father. When he raised Lazarus from the dead, he is seeing the Father. When he fed the many with a few loaves of bread and fish, he is the Father. When he quelled the crowd from stoning the adulterous woman, he is the Father. When the winds of the ocean obeyed him in the windy storm, he is seeing the Father. In John 5, verse 19, Jesus says, Jesus gave them this answer. Very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing by himself. He can only do what he sees his Father doing. Because whatever the Father does, the Son also does. In John 8, just a few chapters later, actually a few chapters before, so Jesus said, when you have lifted up the Son of Man, then you know that I am he, and that I do nothing of my own, but speak what the Father has taught me. In olden times, when kings sent their messengers or their emissaries to new kingdoms to deliver a message, they spoke on the king's behalf. They were by all purposes a direct vision, a projection of the king's power and authority when they reached their destination. To harm a hair on their head is akin to a direct attack on the king himself. This is like when I'm in the grocery store with my mom, and then, she leaves you in line, hold my spot in line while I go get something. And then people start going up, and it's your turn. You scan all the items, the lady puts it all in the bags, and you're waiting there so where your mom at? I was going to pay for this. I'm like, she's coming. Now, no one in line can skip me because, hey, you're all going to wait for her to get here because I am her standing in this line. I just need the credit card to get here before we swipe on it. And so, when I repeat verse 11, it says, Believe me when I say I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. Believe Jesus when he says he is the Father. That's what he's reiterating to the disciples. And he presents two cases for us to believe him. We can believe him who he says he is, or we can believe him off his works, off his power, and off what he's done in our lives. Now, that goes into how Jesus closes us off with them. It says, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing. They would do even greater. They will even do greater things than these, because I am going to the Father, and I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. Now, what does this mean to believe? This is like the umpteenth time Jesus has brought up trusting in him. We're just a few verses into this chapter 14, and he has said so many different ways, believe me, believe me, believe me, believe me. When somebody has to say the same thing many times over and over again, that's a very cue for this is important to them. And for me, I'm pretty much very much a believer to a lot of things. It's until somebody says it like 15 times, I'm like, okay, let me pause. This is important to them. Maybe I should just stop for a little bit. In the very first verse, he says, believe in me. In verse 6, he says, he is the way, the truth, and the light. In verse 7, he says, if you really knew me, you know the Father. In verse 10, he says, don't you believe that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me? And in verse 11, he says, believe me when I say I am in the Father and the Father is in me. So what does it mean to believe in him? Like, how does that practically look like? It means to trust him. It means to rely on him. It means to have faith in him in the works of your life. In verse 12, it said, very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, for they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. This is greater in a horizontal way, not a vertical way, more of magnitude, not in the sense of power. The magnitude will be wide-reaching. The very same reach that will be born from his death, which he alluded in John 12, which I'll say again. Jesus replied, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a seed, but if it dies, it produces many seeds. And which is crazy for me to think, because Jesus was that initial sacrifice in his death. And from the seed which he grew from, spurned the disciples, which planted more seeds, which built the eventual forest that is the ministry of his body in Christ. And the thing about seeds is eventually they will die. And this verse, or these set of verses, hold such a special meaning because Jesus is here calming them, just soothing their worry. But he doesn't say their lives will get better. In fact, most of them die. Most of them get tortured very gruesomely. John, who writes this chapter, also writes the book of Revelation. He gets tortured and then sent off to an island to live the rest of his days out. But Jesus still calms them that they should believe in him and follow him. Let me see what it was. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. He's speaking of the sacrifice that we're all going to make, that was just brought to his disciples. Now, in verse 13, it says, I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it. I love that line because I will do whatever you ask in my name is like, in my name is the key portion. It doesn't mean, God, I want a Ferrari and all-paid vacation. I'm like, I don't know if that's in God's name. I like it to be, because I got some vacations coming up that cost a lot of money. That would be nice if we could come through the Son, which is Jesus. But you would it's nice to come to God through the Son, which is Jesus. You would ask because it is of the Father's will. To ask in Jesus' name is to know what Jesus is like. It's knowing a friend and asking something of them. For example, whenever we're in a store and one of us has to go to the bathroom and it's our turn in line to order from Chipotle or the ice cream store, they would take my order for me, or I'll take the order for them. They would ask in me. They know what I like. They know, don't get me chocolate. It has to be vanilla. I don't like a lot of sprinkles. Put some caramel on there. I'll take the cherry. It's kind of nice. But they would ask in me because they know who I am in my position. So don't lose sight of the verses that came before. They require knowing God, building a relationship, and knowing his heart. I couldn't order for you if I don't know you. I couldn't order for you if I don't spend time with you, if I don't know what you like, what you don't like, what sets you off, what doesn't, things like that. If I'm to make a choice in the name of a friend, I must know that friend. I must know who they are, and I must know what kind of decisions would be of them. So, to know someone's voice from memory is to have their presence be a part of you. You would have to spend time with them, listen to them, and know their being. There's a theologian who puts it this way. His name is lost upon me, but it goes like this. If you love God, do as you please. Because to love God, what pleases him pleases you. As I invite the worship team to come up real quick, I just want to emphasize on trusting in God and being of God. The disciples are probably having one of their last few conversations with Jesus. It's a very tense scene. It's a very emotional scene. And they probably won't see him again till he is till he resurrects again. And Jesus is alleviating them of their worry. And I want to say to you, don't worry about the future. You can't control what you can't control. Trust in the Lord and seek him. He will guide you through your life, through relationships, through the valleys, through the depths, and through the heights. Your relationship deepens and strengthens as the more you spend time with him. And that's what Jesus is speaking here. He said, do not worry. Trust in me. I have a home prepared for you. I know what's to come, and I have prepared a room. I have plenty of space. Just trust in him and believe he is the Father. And to believe in the Father is to seek him daily, build that friendship, build that real friendship and that lifelong relationship that lasts a lifetime. Because to have true friends is to say, I come to you in all good and all bad. And that's where I want to hang my hat on. It's just on that. It's just continue to believe in God.